send a car, but they'll also send it back to us for our dispatch to send somebody out to respond to whatever the issue is. But they handle all kinds of calls. When I say thousands of them, you name it, they deal with it. It could be a stray dog, a stray cat. We had one with snakes that was in a tree. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So they deal with all kinds of calls that they handle and dispatch to us throughout the day, throughout the weeks and years. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Keith Sumas. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for the district, and I oversee the school emergency safety plans, emergency drills, and emergency responses around the district.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say as well, perform safety and security assessments at each one of the schools within the district.
Keith is a new addition. He's here. He's been here almost 2 years now. We've been looking at a emergency management person for a long time, and finally we were able to bring in someone who knew that stuff, was very squared away. I didn't have to teach him anything. He teaches me a lot of stuff actually. When you think about Keith, I look at it, I said this last night, but I look at it like you think about a 6-pack with the little plastic thing. He's the plastic thing to keep us together, right? So when he keeps us organized, he makes sure that we are following, certain guidelines, that we're looking at different things in a different way instead of just focusing on it with just one lens. He brings those multiple lenses to bear on some of the stuff that we deal with, keeps us straight and in alignment with what's required by the fire marshal, by GEMA. So one of those other things again that helps us keep us safe and secure.
Good afternoon, Elvin Lieutenant Melvin Dillon, responsible for all of the crossing guards that are throughout the district, as well as the sergeant with the traffic officers.
Lieutenant Hill, I feel like I'm interpreting something, right? So, Lieutenant Hill, just talk a little bit more about that. So, as I go through this presentation, I'm covering some of the stuff as we talk about it. So, but with Lieutenant Hill, crossing guards is the first person your kids see when we talk about, especially if they're walking to school. They're the first one they see. And we're very, again, we talk about the layered approach. It's not just police, trying to stop an active shooter, but it is our crossing guards are making sure our kids are getting across the street safely every day. Haven't had a single incident with crossing guards, a single one. Keep my fingers crossed. We're gonna keep it that way. A single incident with our crossing guards since I've been here, a single one. So we want to keep that like that.
Good evening. My name is Sergeant Andre Pan. I am the sergeant over the Jackson cluster, Midtown cluster, and the Atlanta cluster. I'm also in charge of background recruiting for our officers. And assigned here to Sutton Middle School are the officers that you saw out back, which was Officer Raymond and Officer Pringle. And North Atlanta officers consist of Officer Nicholas and Officer Stephen. So I have 4 officers up here right now, and those are the officers that pretty much control and keep our students and our staff and buildings safe up here in North Atlanta cluster. Sorry.
I'm Lieutenant Richard Beck. I'm over the Criminal Investigation Division. I'm also over the sergeants and the corporals and most of the, the entire non-public school system.
Good afternoon. My name is Investigator Gibson. I'm a part of the Criminal Investigation Division. This is my team. What we do is we follow up on any criminal activity throughout the district and provide support to the school resource officers. So anything they pretty much come in contact with, we will follow with them and help them find a resolution to the cases.
Good evening. I'm Investigator Byron. I'm also an investigator with the Criminal Investigations Division. I also assist with school dues, if anyone is familiar with school dues. School duty is, if you're internal or external and you want to have an event at an APS site, you have to put it in school dues, and according to the event, it comes through us, and we assign officers if need be.
Good evening, I'm Investigator Kimberly Shambley, and just as they said, I'm part of the Criminal Investigation Division. We support all of the schools in the district, also the athletic events, and conduct investigations.
All right, so this whole team is super squared away. We didn't just start yesterday. A lot of people assume because we're a new police department that we are fresh out of the police academy, sitting over there years, maybe hundreds of years of experience. When we started counting, I have 34 myself, so it has to be, Richard Beck's like 60 years. But yeah, I mean, hundreds of years of experience. We bring a lot to bear when it comes to dealing with safety and security in the district. And we're not alone. I'll talk a little bit more about our partnerships and the other folks that we deal with. But I want to go back a little bit because we have one more board member, Board Member Jones, to let you, if you have anything you want to say.
Yeah, I'm walking late, so I don't want to keep us good, but Tamara Jones, at large 7, just here to hear everybody's concerns and the great work that they're doing.
Thank you. So when we think about our purpose, one of the things that our mission for the Atlanta Public School Police Department primarily is to provide a safe and secure learning environment for our teachers to teach and our students to learn. We understand and we get it. We're very clear how important it is for your kids to be in an environment free from distractions, especially those that we can control, free from distractions so that they can learn. The best opportunity to learn is if we can make sure that their schools are safe and secure. We get it. We get it so much so that graduation is not just for the teachers, that's for us too. We enjoy it. We enjoy seeing our kids, we call them our kids, they are our kids. We enjoy seeing our kids go across that stage. Our goal for the youngest, K4, is to see them go from K4 to 12th grade and to go out and be productive citizens. That's the goal at the end of the day. We're in step with the academic side of the house when it comes to that. So that's our goal at the end of the day, and we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that happens. So how are we doing that? We're looking at a few things. If we want to create a safe environment, we want to make sure that we improve the safety and security of our students. And we do that in a lot of ways, and I'll talk about that, how we're doing that today. We have to reduce school-based crime. Unfortunately, we have instances where some of our kids are committing crimes within the school. One of the things that we're really focused on is destroying the pipeline from school to prison. I know I get conversations about that all the time. What are you doing? Well, we're doing a lot of things to make sure that every single instance where we have to charge a kid with a crime, we're vetting that very closely to make sure that this is the right thing to do. Sometimes we have to. There's some things we have no choice. But in some cases, in almost every day, we're having conversations with principals, we're having conversations with teachers about what kids are doing, and we're making decisions that's going to be in the best interest of that kid. So trust that that's what we're doing. We have to reduce school-based crime. We also want to build a positive relationship between us and our kids. Again, one of my goals, one of my directives is that we be engaged. We have to interact with our kids. I don't want an officer who's going to come into a school, stand up against the wall, watch kids all day. I want an officer who's going to jump in, have conversations, know those kids, understand those kids, so much so that they're standing in the front door and they see a kid walk in with a different look on their face, that they're able to jump in and say, hey, what's going on? That's the way we operate. That also helps us when it comes to any particular issues. I love this man. Okay. If we create an environment where kids are comfortable coming to us, having conversations with us, we can get ahead of a lot of issues. And we have gotten ahead of a lot of issues because of those relationships. And that's what we want to continue to build. That's one of the things we focus on. We have some challenges. Some of the kids have, behavior issues. And we're working with administrators, with the administration and the principals to try to deal with those. Again, trying to get ahead of issues and not charge kids with crimes because of behavior issues. We understand, and I can explain a little bit more a little bit later. Well, with our training, we understand that some of our kids bring a lot with them when they come to school. They have a lot of issues that they're dealing with. We understand that. Because we understand that, we take a different approach when it comes to dealing with issues like this and try to yield to the administrators when it comes to dealing with certain issues. We've had issues with increased gang recruitment in our district. Not trying to scare you, but everywhere. No school is exempt. I know because I see the map. We have a map that we created of all the different gangs in different areas of the district. It's different in different places, right? It's not, but just trust that it is. And we're trying to do everything we can to deter kids, keep them from even thinking about joining gangs, identifying gang members, and making sure that they're not here creating problems for our kids. When I talk about gang members in our schools, I'm not talking about gang activity necessarily. We're not talking about that in school commit crimes, because that's not what we're seeing. But we are seeing instances where some gangs are recruiting kids into school. As young as our middle school, as young as our elementary schools. So we have a plan in place to deal with that also, and I'll talk about that. There's some concerns nationwide when it comes to school safety. Our officers, our team, we sit and we talk with other districts throughout the country, throughout the state, throughout the metro area, and they're experiencing the same issues. None of them are different. And just to settle you a little bit about gangs, there are gangs in every single county in the state of Georgia. Every county. Pick one, there are gangs there. So it's not just a problem just specifically to Atlanta, South Atlanta, East Atlanta, West Atlanta, North Atlanta. It's all over the state of Georgia. So we're all dealing with that issue and we're trying to get ahead of that. Staffing challenges, a lot of folks don't want to be police officers. A lot of folks don't want to be police officers, not interested. And unfortunately, a lot of police officers don't want to deal with kids. So we have challenges with that, but we're doing a lot of things to try to bring good quality police officers on board with us. And we do a very good job of scrutinizing officers who decide to come work with us, because we know that at some point they're going to be put into a school working with your kids, your most precious cargo, your most precious asset. And I want to make sure that that officer should be there. It should be someone that should not be there. We go so far as to, if we get an officer, for example, works for Columbus Police and want to come and work for us, I send an officer down there to go and look at the file. I want to go and see in their file what they've been doing while they were at Columbus Police. And if they report it and we see it and we see that there's an issue, they're not going to work for us. They're not going to. One of the reasons for me, it's a big deal for me, is as a kid, I've experienced a situation where my father was assaulted by police. And I made it at that point, at that age, at young age, I was 5 or 7, I can't remember the years, but I never forget the incident. And I've always said to myself, I'll never let that happen. If I run a department, that's not going to stand with me. So when we're dealing with your kids, it's going to be appropriate, because if it's not, they won't be working here. And if it's severe enough, they're likely to get charged with a crime. That's where I stand. So that's where we're going. That's what we're going to talk about. Let's move forward. Talk about our staff, and I just introduced my team to you. You kind of look at that and get a gist of where we are. We have several police officers. We have crossing guards, emergency management. We just talked about that. Our support team that helps us get our jobs done every day. So kind of went through that. In our Office of Security, they handle the 5,000 plus cameras that we have in our district, the access controls, the door monitors that we have on there, on our doors. On all of our exterior doors, some people heard the loud sound, the buzzing sound, the open doors. But we decided to do that because we wanted to make sure that people were not coming into our exterior doors uninvited. So we want to know when someone's coming into our buildings. That's one of the reasons why we did that. So they handle all of those things, the cameras, the alarms, both burglar alarms, fire alarms. What's the other one? That's one of them they do, the alarms. Carbon monoxide detectors. I mean, so we talk about a layered approach. It's not just police. It's all of those things that we're talking about there that we're doing to make sure that our kids are safe, secure, and strong. That was supposed to be there. Some of the things that we're doing within our buildings, I talked about, we installed some advanced metal detectors, Evolve. We are acquiring a few more to kind of go back in and supplement some of the ones we have right now. One of the things that we realized when we initially went in and made plans to install those devices, we were able to see where there were multiple entrances, and this is only during the beginning of school, multiple entrances for some schools. They weren't able to have just one entrance. So we're bringing these devices in for that purpose, to help fill the gaps in some of those spaces. And this is just at the middle and high schools, just in the middle and high schools. I talked about the audible door alarms. It's one of the things that we're doing to address people coming in from our perimeter. We're installing security vestibules. That schedule has been pushed up to go a lot quicker. We're using SPLOST to make that happen. Before it would have been over the next 5 years. I think now we'll be done, and I don't want to quote, but I want to say within the next 2 years, that'll be done, that'll be taken care of. Security vestibule, basically, it is a way to prevent people from coming directly into the school. We want to be able to screen those people or redirect people, or even create a situation where it's very difficult for someone to come into the school without someone being able to stop them from getting inside. So also in these vestibules, we're going to have bulletproof film placed on the glass, okay? Because we know that in a lot of instances, active shooters decide to come into the front entrance, and they decide to shoot up the front entrance. Well, with the ballistic film, it's going to be very difficult to make entry that way. And give us a little bit of time to get there and make sure we can respond. School safety assessments, Atlanta Fire Department, Atlanta Police, and our police department, we're always doing assessments throughout the days, throughout the weeks. We're always doing assessments. Atlanta Fire, for example, they have the schedules for every school, and they'll pop in on, anytime they do a fire drill, they'll drop in to see exactly what they're doing and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we have a process in place to go back and make sure that we're checking and determining, making sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do when it comes to drills and things like that. When it comes to personnel, I talked about recruiting SROs. We're really working hard to make that happen. We have a gang intelligence unit, and we want to increase that unit because we recognize with one person the load of work that it takes to recognize, help us recognize, help teachers recognize gangs. It's a lot. We need more. So one of the things I'm going to be looking for next year, if not before, is to build up that gang intelligence unit. The other challenge for this is, it's a specialty. Gangs are like iPhones, they change every 6 months. It's always something different. They morph into something else before you know it, right before your eyes. And you have to have someone who's really in tune with those changes with the gangs to be able to do that. We had, when I posted the position for gang intelligence, only 2 people applied. Just two. And those 2 people both are very capable of doing the job, but we need more, and we're gonna look at beefing that up. And of course, other areas, we're always looking for ways to make improvements, to be a lot more efficient, to provide an environment that's a lot safer and secure for your students. When we think about capacity, all of our officers are trained in active shooting. They train with APD, they train with Atlanta Fire Department. So it's not just us. As a matter of fact, the training that we deliver is very similar to what APD does. It's very similar to what a lot of agencies in the metro area might do. So that in case we have to respond, we can operate a lot more efficiently together if we do. Heaven forbid that we have to. We talk about gangs. We sent 17 officers to be trained to help kids, give kids tools to fight gangs, gang resistance, education, and training. We were able to work with the U.S. Attorney's Office, we talk about partnerships, U.S. Attorney's Office to bring this training to Georgia. A lot of metro area school systems, school districts were able to send police officers to get this training. We'll be starting in the next few months in the elementary and middle schools, delivering this training, giving our kids tools to help fight gangs, to help resist the joining of gangs. So We're working on that. Of course, all the drills, I mentioned that earlier, all the drills that we're doing, we have several of them. Fire, intruder, CPR, bomb threat, reverse evacuation, severe weather, and earthquake. Yes, we have earthquakes. That doesn't do as much damage as California, right? But we do have. So we're doing all sorts of things. We talk about layered approach. Remember, it's not just responding to active shooter, it's all those things too. Okay? Think about training. All of our teachers, every person that works for APS has to take active shooter training. So they have some idea of what they could do, what they should do in response to an active shooter. So that is in our training platform, my PLC. Everyone has to take it. Even the police officers who are trained that respond to active shooters have to take this training. So we mandated that for every employee. Some of the systems we have in place, we've had Sandy Hook Promise for quite some time. There were a couple of parents in Springdale Park who came to me in 2017 and introduced that to me, and that was pretty cool. It's just amazing to see how things happen. I sat down to lunch with two parents. They told me about this. I'm like, look, we're gonna see what we can do. We made it happen. It's been up and running since then. Sandy Hook Promise is an anonymous reporting system. Just to give you a little data, the Secret Service did a study about active shooter events. And they said in active shooter events, 84% of the time, someone knew about it. Can you imagine that? 84% of the time, someone knew about it. But just imagine if that 84% of folks, if even half of them would have said something, how many lives would be saved? So this all came about as a result. That's one reason why. Because y'all heard the phrase, stitches get snitches? I mean, snitches get stitches. I'm sorry about that. Stitches get stitches, you heard that phrase? We don't want that to happen. It's an anonymous reporting system. We don't know who it is that's calling. No one else will know who it is that's calling. So they can call in, they can access through an app. It's called the Say Something Anonymous Reporting System through Sandy Hook. I have video, I won't bother showing that today, but you can go onto YouTube and look at some of the things they're doing. But the new superintendent, Dr. Ballard, is pushing to reinvigorate this program. So this is something we'll see in the next few months, really push and schools really kind of getting back on track with the Sandy Hook Promise. It's done a lot for us. We've saved a couple of lives as a result of it. We've had kids who were considering suicide, and we've been able to get to their homes, get to their parents, and give them a heads up to get ahead of potential problems. So it's not just for active shooters. It's for all sorts of things. We've had threats of kids wanting to shoot up schools. We've been able to respond to things like that, find the person who made the threat, and do the appropriate thing that needs to be done for someone who does that, right? So the Say Something Anonymous program. Strategics is the best way to describe it. A lot of people use, I hate to use the word panic button, but think panic button. That's the only way to describe it. But I don't want to look at it like it's a panic situation, but it's a personal wearable device that all the teachers will have. The only lanyard is like a card. That's all it is, a card. They can push a button to signal that they have an issue within their classroom, or they can push it several times to signal that there's some serious danger in our schools and we need police to respond. So we are doing that this year. That should be installed hopefully and operational by January 1, maybe sooner than that. So we're going through the process of having that done now. We're always looking at our security systems, radios, vehicles, things of that nature. We gotta have cars to get to the call. That's one way we get to these incidents that we deal with. We gotta have cars to get there. We gotta have radios so they can tell us what's going on and where it is. So we're always looking at ways to upgrade that. Cameras. We went from analog cameras to digital cameras since I've been here. So we made a lot of strides in a lot of places. With those 5,000 cameras, we're not digital. We're totally digital in the district, which gives us the ability to see things a lot clearer. Just think the rabbit ears on your television versus the cable that's connected, or Cat 5 or Cat 6 that's connected to your television. It's a lot better now than it was before. One other thing, talk about relationships with Atlanta Police. They have access to all of our cameras. So through that system called Fusus, they have the ability to. They have the ability to tap into our cameras if need be, if there's an emergency. They can tap into our cameras, see what's going on, to be able to deal with any issues that we might be having in our schools. So we have those relationships to be able to do that. But they're not in the classrooms, thanks for reminding me that. There are no cameras in the classroom, all right? So y'all don't worry about that. Just the hallways, not the bathrooms, of course, not in bathrooms, just the hallways, exterior, not in classroom, not in bathrooms, right? Visitor management system. This year we switched over to Raptor visitor management system. So it gives us an opportunity to see who's coming in our buildings. If they don't have to go see Lane and her team, then in this case, your parent, your grandparent want to come up and eat lunch with a kid. They have to go through the Raptor system. It's going to check to see if that person has any history of sexual predator or sexual sex crimes, right? Any particular sex crime, a person might be charged with. So it's going to screen for that public information, not the criminal information that we want to do, but the public information. It's another way for us to make sure that the person who's coming in our building should be in our building or should not be in our building. So we have that in place. Talked about Atlanta Police video integration. The other thing is the school speed zone cameras. Today we had a kid that was hit by a car in a school zone. If we can get people to slow down, that's the whole purpose behind this. A lot of people will say, well, it's all about getting money. It's not about getting money for us, it's about getting people to slow down. If we can get people to slow down, they're in a better position to make a decision if a kid decides to dart out into the street. We've had 2 kids injured. One at Midtown, has been years ago, Midtown. We had one off of, I call it Bankhead Highway. I've been around the city all my life. I had one kid get killed off Bankhead Highway. Donnelly Holloway. It's hard for me to say. I know it's fake. But anyway, if we can get people to slow down, we can save lives. Remember, like I said, it's not all about active shooting. It's a whole bunch of things that we have to do. And that we're focused on. It's not just active shooting, so it's all those things too. So the school speed zone camera, our goal is to have them at all schools. We ran into a slight problem. We had a plan where we looked at areas that we were seeing more violations than others. But when we went to implement and deploy, we met with the state. The state said, well, we can't do it on those roads because they haven't been certified. So they're going through the process now of certifying all the roads for every school so that we can have this system up in place at every school. That's the goal. We always have it at every school. Talk about collaboration and partnerships. We meet with APD every week. We're talking to them every day. I was on the phone with the chief 3 times this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, dealing with issues involving our kids. One of the things that they're very good about, if one of our kids are involved, a victim of a crime, a serious crime, they give us a heads up. Why? Because we want to make sure when they come to school that we can address any potential issues that may come about as a result of that incident. Unfortunately, we've had kids who were killed. They give us a heads up about that. Of course, if a kid is killed, their friends may impact them. So we're bringing in help to try to make sure our kids are processing this appropriately so that we can get them back to learning, make sure they're focused on learning. Again, it's that layered approach. It's not just active shooting. So many things. It's unbelievable. We meet with the field operations division once a week, every Tuesday. It's all their zone commanders. We talk about any potential issues that we might have or anything they may see to let us know. We'll attend their COBRA meeting every Thursday, which is they talk about their stats and their data and what they're doing to respond to certain issues within the communities. We meet with their gang intelligence, unit once a week to talk about any potential issues involving gangs, what's happening, what are we seeing, what's different, how we need to respond. We'll meet with them all the time. I'm emphasizing this because I always get from people, you guys need to work with Atlanta Police. I don't know how much closer you guys want us to do it, but we're talking to them every day. Anybody talk to Atlanta today? Okay, so there we go. I mean, we're working with them as close as we can. So no issues there. I'll tell you, in the 34 years I've been in law enforcement, this is the best I've seen in coordination between Atlanta Police and any organization. I've never seen this, ever. Never seen this good. So you can rest assured, if we need the support, we're gonna get it from them. If they need it, they're gonna get it from us. We have relationship with, periodic meetings with several different school districts in the city, in the state, in the country. We're meeting with them, talking about some of the issues that we're having, what's working for us, what's not working. So we're doing all sorts of things to make sure that we're as efficient as we can be in our work. Fulton County District Attorney's Office, gang awareness and truancy. Y'all know the DA in Fulton County, right? The one that's, charging our president, our former president, with, she'll charge us too. And she made it very clear to us. If you step out of line, I'm gonna get you. We're not gonna step out of line. We're not gonna give her a reason to do that. But we're working with the DA on those things. We have officers assigned to the Niagara County Human Trafficking Task Force. That's very big, a very big topic, a very big issue that a lot of people are concerned about. So we have 2 officers who are assigned to that task force. We're meeting with the Juvenile Court Pathway Initiative once a month. We're doing a lot of stuff. We're doing a lot. This isn't a typical police department, right? I mean, this isn't the typical stuff that you see. All these things, we're interacting with different folks. We're doing everything we can to make sure our kids are safe, secure, and strong. We're looking at everything possible. Everything possible. U.S. Attorney's Office, we've been working with them. They've been very helpful again with the great program, funding that, giving us money for that, giving us spots for that, sharing information with us, helping us with, especially with gangs in particular, issues with gangs, very much, very helpful with that. Monthly metro school gang meetings, we're meeting with other school districts. Our kids are moving from district to district. They'll go from Clayton to Atlanta, to DeKalb, to Fulton, to Cobb. Remember I said gangs are everywhere. No one is exempt. All right? So we're looking everywhere. These guys are moving all over the place. We're trying to pay attention to that. We have to have a united force in order to deal with it. So those are some of the things we're doing. When we think about what we do, you see the triangle, we work on a triad, the triad method. Really, we think about that, one part of that triangle is law enforcement. We can do that anytime. We've been in law enforcement for years, so we know how to do that. But we do less law enforcement work here than anything else. We do more educating, more counseling than we do anything else in this district. We're not policing your kids. We're not. We're engaging with them. We're interacting with them. We're not policing. So think about that. So some of the things, other relationships that we have, NASRO was an organization that certified our officers when we first started, National Association of School Resource Officers. So we got started with that. That was the first thing that came about. But then as over the past few years, we become members of the Georgia Alliance for School Resource Officers and Educators. That's a significant part of that group. They have educators also involved with this group. So we're hearing the voice of educators, and we're taking police officers, we're trying to mend our thoughts so that we can respond appropriately. So we can be thinking not just about how we work as police, but how do administrators work, how would they like to see us interact with them. So we're working with GASRO on that. The Council of Great City Schools, we meet with them once a month to talk about some of the issues we're having with cities throughout the country when it comes to safety and security. Metro RESA, Discipline and Safety Group, we're meeting with them once a quarter. It's once a quarter, right? Once a quarter. Talking about what's happening regionally for our departments. And of course, from the officer training, every officer is training social emotional learning, positive behavior intervention, restorative practices, crisis intervention team, crisis intervention team youth, mental health first aid. Nobody else is doing it. Nobody that I know of is doing all of that. We give them that to prepare them to work with your kids. We get it and we understand. So for me, before I got into the business of working with kids, I was a SWAT team commander. And as a SWAT team commander, every bad guy was a nail and I was a hammer. My guys get tired of hearing that. Say it all the time. But the best way to describe it, I mean, now, that's where it was. I mean, so I had to change. It took me a few years to get to the space where I am today. It happened before I got here. But we recognize that officers from other agencies, they're coming from, you pick a police department, if it's not a school police, we want to make sure that they have the proper tools, not just around the belt, but up here to be able to deal with your kids. So we do all this for that reason. There's room for growth. Might not seem like it. It's like there's a lot of stuff we're doing, but there's room for growth. We see that. We understand that. We're not comfortable with where we are. We're always looking for ways to improve. Always looking for ways to improve. So as we move forward, we're always looking for ways to update and integrate safety and security technology. We're always looking for ways to make improvements. Now, I'm gonna share this with you. One of the things that a lot of these companies, everybody's doing something with school safety, everybody. And trust me, I get the calls, thousands of them, every week it seems like. Trying to sell this, trying to sell that. So we're going through a process where we have to vet all of these things that we're seeing coming out from different companies. But we're looking at research, we're talking to our partners, we're looking to see what's going to work in our district, for our district to make us safe. So we're looking at that closely. Additional staff resources based on latest threats, enhanced systems and processes. We're not going to stop looking for ways to be efficient, to provide a safe and secure environment for the students. With that said, I'll open the floor for any questions. Yes.
So, I have a son at Warren. My son goes to 7-year-old. He rides the bus every day. We live on Wyuka. And I realize the buses have the ticketing system on the side of them. I've counted at least 3 cars in the last week alone that have blown past the school bus as my son is trying to get on or off the school bus. Is there any chance that on random days, some of your officers could follow a school bus and actually interact with the driver that blows past and is getting a ticket? I think there is some value to that immediate interaction with law enforcement on this type of violation.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. We definitely consider it. What time does that happen?
It's afternoon primarily, but it's happening in the morning.
In the morning, in the afternoons? You got it, Nancy? Sorry, Pam's gonna work.
I think I have a question every time you speak, but could you review the difference in what typically defines a threat for elementary schools versus middle schools versus high schools? So what types of, what do you see mostly as security issues in elementary schools versus middle versus high?
In elementary schools in Atlanta, doesn't mean it won't happen, but very little things like that. A lot of stuff we see in high schools and middle schools are student related. In elementary, you may see like a parent, for example, upset because their kid may have gotten suspended or something happened, kid maybe bullied or something like that. But we don't see issues in elementary schools like we see in the middle and high schools. So. Yes.
I know it's a layered and multi-pronged, effort to keep our kids safe. We really appreciate it. One question I did have, so a lot of the schools have already gotten their vestibules. I have 2 kids in Horace Brand and we haven't gotten ours yet. Has there been any thought put into putting SROs at those schools that don't yet have their vestibules?
That has been consideration. Just keep in mind, it's hard to get people on board. It's very difficult. So what we're doing is using an approach with rovers to go out and patrol the different elementary schools. We have rovers, we have sergeants, we have corporals, we have investigators. Everybody is responsible for dropping in on elementary schools. I do it, the major does it. I mean, all of us are doing it. So that's the best way we can do it under the circumstances until we get our numbers up to where we need to. But as far as having someone there, we understand that's something that the parents are looking for. But we really try to focus on those schools if something comes up. Really try to pay attention to those.
I'm glad to hear that the date's been moved up a little bit.
Yes, that's been good. That's been good.
Piggybacking off of her great question, is it a resource issue and a lack of funding from APS? While there aren't SROs in elementary school, we look at the data from a high level, and it appears that school shooting incidences are happening in elementary schools. You drive around our cluster, every preschool in our cluster has armed security. Every middle school has armed security. Every high school has armed security. So when you hear, for example, the Covenant shooter who considered one location and went to a different location because there wasn't an officer. I know a group of us did our best to petition the board at the end of the budget process last year. It was less than 1% to get you the funding you need. I'm former law enforcement myself from the Attorney General's office. Couldn't be a bigger fan of you, Chief Applin, and your crew and all y'all do. And if I could have every single one of y'all sit next to my kid every day, I'd be the happiest person. I know I can't have that. But we see the presence. I was at the school for a couple hours today and there wasn't an officer there. I did have to check in and I appreciated that. But I wonder, is it a resource issue or is it building up your, like, do you have the money to put an officer in every elementary school or do you need more funding? Thank you.
I don't have the money to put an officer in every elementary school. To be honest with you, I don't know if I would get an officer in elementary school, even if I did have the money. It will be a problem bringing people on board. Remember, we have vacancies right now. Even though we're like the second highest paid police department in the metro area, like the second, third, something like that. With weekends off, we can't beat that. But still, we're having trouble bringing people on board. So we try to use the resources that we have. That's why we have the rovers going around checking. We have, all of us are all doing something to give some attention to elementary schools. One thing we did do was have an officer that's associated with every elementary school. That may not help you with what you want, but we do have an officer who's associated. So every principal should be able to reach out to a specific officer if they're having certain issues in their schools and reach out to them to get them. And of course, we have 2,000, we have Atlanta police, we're all aware of it. And so we're cognizant of that. If something happens, trust me, we're going to be coming get there as fast as we can and try to get ahead of any issue that we might have. Yes.
Hey, Chief Applin, I want to feedback on all of this and say thank you so much for all of those efforts. We really do appreciate it and don't want this to feel like something where we're criticizing any of the work that we've done. It's really just, we're concerned parents. And I know you've had, you had a daughter in APS too, so I know you feel the same way. I think with the SROs at elementary schools, some other question about that. Is there a way to have like some type of plan in place, a recruiting plan, a funding plan, like what can we do as like the community to help you, like push to get the funding you need, and then also like the recruiting resources that you need to really make this like a bigger initiative. Is that a possibility? And also, we've also heard that like if an elementary school wants an SRO, they have to pay for it with their own budget. Like, is that something where like the school would just hire someone or would that go through?
It will go through our.
So it would be like.
So the principal will come in and say, hey, Chief, we want to have an officer, we'll pay for it. And we'll make that happen.
Okay. I think a lot of us feel like that's a little bit unfair from the school. So I think, I know there's board members here and I think like we really did push at the end of the last year to get more funding for you and to address that. I think we were all very disappointed that was neglected.
There was a lot of funding provided to the department. We did get a few more officers to help patrol the district, but again, the challenge on the other side of that is actually bringing officers on board, actually getting them to come to work. We just HR gave us a hiring bonus, $5,000, very competitive. We just started this within the last week. We'll see how this goes. We're really pushing to try to get the information out to all the different agencies. But one thing that we're doing, we're hiring officers who are already certified. They're already working for somebody else. And so we have to be careful not to be labeled as stealing other people's offices. Now, I am focused on my department. At the end of the day, if they want to be competitive, they can provide them with more money and provide bonus to stay with. We try to be careful about that too, because people, I've been accused a few times of stealing officers from different agencies. And I try to tell the chief, look, I'm not standing outside the department with an application. We don't even we don't even push for people to come, we just, they come, it's word of mouth. So, but we are gonna be pushing to advertising, for officers to come to work with us, to try to fill some of the vacancies we have. Yes.
I was just wondering if the panic, button system that you talked about, will that be in the elementary?
Every school.
schools?
It may be before January 1st. We met today talking about, doing a trial period at one of the schools in the district, within the next month or so. So yes, I'm thinking January at the latest, January.
And the funds from Kemp that were designated end of last year, I know APS through APS.
Right.
Each school.
Right.
Is there an update on how it's being?
Those funds are being spent with strategics, that system, it's about $45,000 for 5 years. So they have us covered for 5 years with that. And then we're taking the rest of the funds and we're using, the state, originally they introduced a bill requiring school districts to provide, the local police departments, public safety departments with mapping of their schools. While the state does not require it, we decided to go ahead and do it because it's coming. We know it's coming. It's going to happen. So that's the other thing that we're doing. Every school is going to be, we'll have maps to be able to provide to every public safety agency that may respond, so they'll know where they're going when they come into the schools and how to respond to things, any issues we may be having.
Chief, you have time for about maybe two additional questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Avery Austin. I go to North Atlanta High School.
All right.
And, I have a suggestion. So in order to continue to increase the relationships between police officers and students at North Atlanta, I was thinking that we have like a little meet and greet, a little breakfast, a little lunch, because I love food and we all love the word free. So,
Donuts for the cup.
I was just thinking that we can really use that as
Okay.
a free food to get students like myself to meet you guys.
Great idea. Great idea. Sergeant Pam, for protected, say that, we don't always think about things like that. It's great suggestion.
Thank you for your information this evening. How does your department train substitute teachers? Are they also required to do the MyPLC?
That's correct. Every employee has it.
And since they could be a different site every day, potentially, how does each site have a protocol for each school for sharing specifics that may be applicable?
The program is avoid, deny, defend, add. Avoid, deny, defend. We talk a little bit more in details about giving them ideas of things that they can do to avoid a threat if there's one, deny access to the students and themselves, and what they have to do if they have to defend themselves. So that's a basic formula for dealing with that. You guys can do the same thing if you're out and about. Add, avoid the threat, deny access to you from the threat, defend yourself if you have to.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for this. New mom here, my kids in pre-K, so new to the conversation. This is great to start. You mentioned the vestibules, the security vestibules, probably for January. That it will be like a deadline, maybe January to do.
Oh, so they're in the process of being installed right now, but I want to say within the next 2 years we'll have it done in every school.
And the ballistic film, is that only gonna be for vestibules?
Just for the vestibules. Just for the vestibules right now. It's very, 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 your kids are back, so don't take this wrong way. But when we think about budgeting for that, we budgeted specifically to put that ballistic film on just the vestibule. Because we know that, again, that in a lot of instances, the person who comes in, like the most recent one in Tennessee, he shot through the glass window at the front door. So we could slow them down enough to give us a chance to get there. We can respond and we can put an end to it. That's the goal.
Chief, our final question here with respect to the hour right here is our final question. Okay.
Hi, thank you for being here and giving us this opportunity tonight. I just wanted to ask, I think we all came through with our concerns, and I'd like to know from your perspective, especially specific to North Atlanta, what you see as the greatest threat safety-wise for our students here in North Atlanta.
Parents. Parents who are not paying attention when they're driving to school, parents who are so quick to react to something that's happening in school and not allowing the administration to handle those things. I hate to throw it out there, parents who are not paying attention to their kids when they come to football games and activities, who are sending them off and not talking to them, having a conversation with them about expectations, how they should carry themselves. Honestly, that is it. I hate this. I'm not trying to give you guys a hard time. Don't walk out of here mad at me about it. That's what we're having issues with. We're having issues with parents. If I could get y'all to talk to your kids about, safety is not just our responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. Everybody. But if I can get y'all, if I could just get you to have a conversation with your kids about how they should carry themselves when they are not with you, that will make a big difference for us.
Chief, really quick, I know I've said this several times, but I promise this is the last one. I overlooked one parent, she had a quick
It's
question.
okay.
And then Principal Douglas would like to share something as
It's
well.
okay.
I think we all remember when there was an active shooter in Midtown and some of the North Atlanta school district did not lock down.
Right.
Which was very alarming to a lot of parents, being that he was found at the Battery, which is very close to Jackson, where my kids go to school. Is there a plan in place to put officers or resources or certain procedures behind a lockdown if there's an active shooter that has not been caught yet in the city of Atlanta?
Yes, on the day that happened, I was at a doctor's appointment in Midtown on the 8th floor at the Piedmont Hospital. And they gave me a room to work out of because they knew what was happening. We knew what we were doing. But part of the challenge with that, one of the things we did do that day is every school that we felt was in proximity of this person at the time, we locked those schools down and we sent an officer to those schools. Sent an officer to every single school to make sure they had someone there just in case. Unfortunately, it wasn't, this person's movements wasn't tracked as well as we would have liked to have had them tracked. Because if we had known, we would have done just that. That's the challenge you get when you're running into situations like that. It's, for some people it's total chaos, but for us it's thinking, what can we do to make sure our kids are safe? And with the information we had at the time, we didn't know that this person had even left the area. We didn't realize until after the fact that he had left the area. When we found that out, I was just floored. I was floored. There's more to it, but I was still floored.
Are you getting information from APD?
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Oh,
is that
yes.
how
Oh,
the
yes.
chain of.
It was so much going on, and I don't want to speak for any other police department, but it was so much going on that day that the timing was off. It was off. Frankly, he was gone pretty early in the process. We were locking out schools really for no reason at all. He was already gone. So we had schools locked down. We were planning to. I think I can share that. I'll say this too late anyway. But we were locking down schools. We were planning to keep kids later than normal, and we were making plans for that. And then we figured out 45 minutes afterwards that he was not even in the area. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and I can't point the finger at any one person. It's just simply frustrating. I can point at the shooter because he caused all the chaos. But we have to do better communicating with each other about what's happening, what we're seeing. So there's a lot of things that happen. Unfortunately, there were no more lives in danger. There were no more lives in danger. So,
do you think because of that situation, you might go ahead and if something that's like that, lock down all schools in APS?
I would consider that. I would consider, yeah, of course. We see those instances. We think about that. Even at the time, I was thinking, okay, he's in Midtown. Of course, the most logical thing, all Midtown schools is locking down, right? Thinking about what's on the border of those schools. But yes, of course, we do. Going forward, we very well will do that. Very well may do that. Yes.
I didn't want to say anything tonight, but I do want to say thank you for coming, but also I have to reiterate how incredible our department is. I know you may think they are already, but just take it from a principal with 2,300 students. They're incredible as far as the support they give, as far as sometimes it's not about what you do, it's what you don't do. I mean, they're cool, calm, and collected, which is really important in emergency situations. They don't overreact, and that's just as important as reacting to a lot of things that students do. So I can't say how much enough. I work with other departments as well. I've been in the school systems in Georgia, and this is one of the best I've ever worked with. So I do want to say that. But I also want to, before you leave today, or before I give the microphone back, I want to emphasize, especially in the middle and high school level, how much students play a part in safety and security. The police do their job, we do our, think we do our job as administrators. But I would say an unscientific number, 95% of what we learn in schools doesn't come from what we see, it's from what your daughters and sons tell us. If there's a weapon in school, no student's ever gonna come and say, here, check this out, Mr. Douglas. It's because other students have the moral fiber and understand that that should not be in school. If anything isn't happening, they will come and tell us. Now they record everything anyway. So if something happens, they're gonna record it. And that's how we see a lot of it anyway. But even if it gets them in trouble. But for the most part, don't underestimate how much our students stop incidences, how many lives our students have saved by telling us what's going on. That's happens more often than anything else. Our students play a huge part in stopping and keeping our schools safe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Douglas. Please know that our children's safety is the #1 priority for us in Atlanta Public Schools. With that, I want to say thank you to the students who have come out, parents, board members, as well as all the community advocates. I want to also say thank you to the principals who initiated the conversation. And when we reached out to Chief Applin, he was very responsive. Within an hour, he said when and where, as well as his team members. But I also have to add that whenever we call on Chief and his team, they are always there and extremely responsive to our needs. So I want to say thank you all for that. And thanks for what you do each and every day to keep us, all of us safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.